Hey guys, Youngblood back with you to talk about the ESF updates that Sony's been talking about for a while now, and we saw some of it, like almost like a teaser beforehand, when they had given us the new weapons in the test server to go around and toy around with. Those had since been pulled, and then back in PU02 we saw some changes. The most notable of which being with the nose guns actually seeing the adjustments. Changing the damage, multipliers and et cetera, et cetera. So we've seen some changes, lock-on mechanics that have really impacted air, but there's still some more things that Sony's talking about wanting to do. Now, the first one that I want to talk about is actually the external fuel tank certifications, and this is, I'll post a link to the long post here, but basically what they're saying is instead of just increasing the top speed, they want to go ahead and increase the capacity of your afterburner tanks and the regeneration rate. And basically it's going to fall into the new fuel tank certification line. So you're going to have to put certs in to get your afterburners to be more successful. Now, I don't know how far this is going to go, but it looks like they're at least starting to kind of nerf the standard afterburner tanks a little bit. So basically stock regeneration rate is being lowered by about 15%. So it's going to take about 2 seconds longer to regenerate from 0 to full. So the first rank or stock of external afterburner tanks is going to negate this. So it sounds like what's happening is that it's just a slight tweak there, nothing major, but well, I guess it is kind of major. It's significant, but once you actually start deciding to use the afterburner and put some certs in, it kind of counteracts that a little bit. Now, engaging afterburners while in hover mode will have a higher initial fuel cost compared to engaging them while in flight mode. This additional cost only occurs once when the afterburner key is pressed. The amount is half a second worth of fuel. So that's not a tremendous difference, half a second's worth of fuel, it's probably 1 or 2 ticks. That being said, you can kind of tell that if you're in hover mode and it's going to be, having a higher impact, that sounds like it's an indirect nerf to the reverse maneuver, to me at least. So I don't know about you guys, but this kind of seems like their way of trying to limit how effective that maneuver is. And I think it was something that we all went up in arms about and said, this is not okay. Like, we like this maneuver. Don't do anything to it. I think this is kind of their happy middle ground. They're not calling it a direct nerf to the reverse maneuver, but it's kind of the indirect way of getting there. And half a second's worth of fuel, not a huge deal, especially if you insert the afterburners where they, past where they are now. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to just kind of depend on how this all plays out, but to me, that's what kind of stands out the most as far as that's concerned. Alright, so that's it for the afterburner tanks. Let's kind of talk about the new weapons, and I think this is probably where most people start getting more excited, because this is where the variety that we've been lacking in the air game comes in. So, first thing, if you guys remember, Locust Cannons were the kind of like Gatling guns that were on your wings. It was kind of a secondary machine gun for your vehicle. Well, the devs decided that they felt that the design for this weapon, and this is their words, was made more sense as a nose cannon. So basically, they changed it, and now it is a nose cannon. What they're saying is going to happen is the Locust Cannons are going to give you a larger mag size, but they're going to do less damage. And there's not going to be any spin-up time. So what it is it's a low damage, non-stop firing weapon. To me, what this sounds like is, it sounds like it's going to be kind of infringing on the default or stock nose cannons role right now. I'm not sure how it's going to be different outside of maybe extending that. And if what you're getting is like a long-term ability to hold and spray and pray, or you have 50 rounds in the stock, but it does more damage. I don't know. I mean, I personally thought this fit in really well. It gave an interesting option available in the secondary weapon category. It wasn't a missile. It was very different. I thought it kind of gave you some other options. So I'm a little disappointed to see this shift from wing-mounted to nose gun. I don't imagine myself using this. It seems like it's very specific to, I don't know, like suppression maybe, but there's not even really like suppression effects in the game. So maybe we're talking about just pinning enemies back, and then we're kind of back to like spawn camping. So I don't really understand this change. Yes, I could see this being beneficial for people that don't have great aim, and sometimes I fall into that camp. But I don't know. I mean, it's just, if you're not going to do much damage and you're going to hit one bullet out of every, 5 or 6, we'll see. To me, this doesn't, I don't really care for this change, but whatever, it is what it is. Now, Coyote missiles, they're saying these are still going to be a low-damage, close-range missile weapon. If you remember these were the ones that locked on super quick from a very close range. You couldn't lock on from very far at all. So basically, this was the dogfighter's lock-on air-to-air missile. Now, they're saying that they're working on a different lock-on style for these. So instead of a lock-on, they're going to be heat-seeking, and will lock onto targets if they fly close enough to them. Now, they say, we intend these to be short-range supplement to nose cannons. They should be useful in situations where a nose cannon shot is not practical. I'm guessing what that means is when you're in one of those circling dogfights with an enemy where you're not going face to face, where you're actually like your nose is on their tail and you're spinning around. It's hard to kind of shoot them sometimes. Maybe you could switch over to a Coyote and it would pick up their heat signature and hit. It seems like that still worked in the old format where you actually had to get the lock. So I'm interested to see how they balance this out. I don't have any more information past what I just read to you. My concern would be if you're flying up to a big firefight and you're just going to launch one of these Coyote missiles or 5 of them, into a crowded fight, and you're just landing hits all over the place, just because they're going to find a target. So I'm sure there's some sort of threshold as far as how far they can actually travel, how far away you can be before you can actually shoot them. I'm just not sure what sort of mechanics they're going to put in. I think it's an interesting change, and I'm kind of excited to see what comes of it, but I'm just not sure how they're going to plan on balancing that out effectively. Now, here's the one that kind of broke my heart. I was a big fan of the mass drivers when it was, out there for us to play with and test. I like the option of a non-lock-on mechanic. I like the things that are going to reward skill, and the mass drivers were kind of in that category. Super high damage. They were fun, they were hard to use, etc., etc. But what they said was they have some technical and balance concerns with this weapon, so we're putting these on hold and are no longer considered part of the ESF update. Mass drivers were probably hands down the single biggest thing that I was excited to see coming, and it just got yanked right out from under my feet. So it's going to be okay. But here's the thing that makes it even more frustrating, is that they were replaced by another missile. Yes, you heard that right, another missile. Now, here's some good news. They're saying that instead of mass drivers, they're implementing guided missiles. And basically what these are going to be like is they're working like an air-to-air missile, but they could also be air-to-ground missile. Either way, you fire it, you have to keep your crosshairs on target, and as long as you maintain that lock, it'll hit a ground or an air target. Sounds a lot like the new Striker mechanics. So they're saying that it's going to have a higher damage output than rocket pods against vehicles, but there's more downsides, as in they can't be used against infantry, and they can be countered by flares and stealth. They also say they can't be fired instantly because they require a lock, and because they aren't fire and forget, they require the pilot to remain engaged with their target. So if you think about the easiest people to shoot down on Earth, or on our axis, I should say, is the LOL podders that are just hovering there trying to maintain their line of sight on a target. So I think these are going to be balanced out pretty effectively. I can't imagine these being an overwhelming game changer. I think it's cool. I mean, it's a new idea, so that's at least going to be interesting to see. And I mean, I'll probably purchase these just to play with because I think it sounds like fun. But honestly, I can't see myself using these more than I would rocket pods. I mean, so I don't see this creating a whole lot of variety outside of the nostalgia, or not nostalgia, the novelty effect of it. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, it seems like they could be effective, and I think it really depends on how much higher potential damage output there actually is. So, I still wish we were getting mass drivers, and if they're saying they're having technical issues, I'll believe them on that, but I would sure like to see them in the game at some point, just because I like the mechanics of them. It's not a missile, so it's something new that was, I don't know, I like railguns, and it felt like a railgun, so there you go. And then the last thing is the engagement radar. Basically, if you guys didn't get to play with this when it was out for a little bit, you slap it on your aircraft. It's kind of like an air radar from like the Battlefield series. And when you're flying around and somebody crosses your screen, you now get the indicators on the outside of your cockpit that show you what direction those people are at. They have to maintain a certain distance from you, and it's not going to tell you exactly where they are, but it's going to give them a direction. And I think this is something that's going to be really great for new pilots. I think even for experienced pilots, if you're just rolling with a straight up, dogfighting kit, something like engagement radar might be good just in case you're going against somebody that spins out and gets behind you and you're not even sure where they went. So I think there's some positives regardless of your skill level, and I'm kind of excited to be able to test this out a little bit and just see how it all works out. One thing they said, though, was they're not sure if it's going to be in the utility or defense slot. So, giving up something like nanite auto repair for engagement radar would be a tough decision, or, utility, talking about giving away your flares for this. So it'll be interesting to see where they decide to put this, because I think it's going to change a lot of builds if people are actually interested in, taking advantage of what they would get from the engagement radar. So that's basically it. Most of these changes are designed for twofold. One is to create more variety in the gameplay, and the flip side of that is to kind of give new pilots a better option to get involved in the game. So when we talk about things like the air radar and like coyote missiles, and if you want to talk about the locust cannons, now that they're a nose gun, all of a sudden you've got a vehicle that's equipped with a radar that's going to tell you where people are at, missiles that you don't need to maintain a lock on, and a nose gun that's going to just fire forever. Now, it's not going to do a lot of damage, but that's a perfect build for a new pilot, and I think we could see a lot of people coming in and giving that a shot. So from that perspective, I think it's a great change, and I'm interested to see how it all plays out. So that's it. We'll see. Once these hit the test servers, I'm going to be spending a lot of time testing them out and giving you my opinions on each one of these, and even more so when it hits live. So just wanted to bring you guys that update. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys later. Take care.